Hello and welcome to Savage Garden, an interview with the vampire podcast delving into immortality one morsel at a time. We are still on a little bit of a hiatus between our coverage of season 1 and series 2, but with so much news about the third series of the show and also the forthcoming Talamasca, myself, Kat and Naomi couldn't wait any longer, so we are back to bring you a roundup of what we've been hearing. So Naomi, let's get into this. Series 3, what do we know?
So exciting. I'm so glad that it's finally filming. I know that prestige television takes so long to produce, and of course this year it's not just a TV show, it's effectively a musical as well, because
Mm.
you're going to have so many songs throughout the whole process. I mean, presumably Daniel Hart has written, I would imagine, an entire album's worth of songs for Sam Reed to sing. But it feels like, SDC last year was post series 2 airing, and it feels like such a long time ago. So it's very exciting. They started filming in Toronto last week. We don't know much, which is good. I mean, obviously this year is based on the book Vampire Lestat, which it sort of starts as a bit of a whiplash, and I think they're going to take that. Roland Jones has already said in an interview that they're going to take that approach with the series as well, which is that it's going to be very, very, very different from obviously the end of series 2, which is beautiful, somber, sort of both of the characters coming back to themselves, and then we're going to start with a vampire rock star, which is obviously going to be a complete tonal whiplash. But the book goes back and looks at obviously how Lestat became a vampire and how he was his relationship at home with his family, which wasn't great. We get introduced to Gabrielle, his mother. We're going to meet Magnus, who is Lestat's maker, who abducted him from his place in France. We're going to see more of Nikki de l'Enfant, who is played by Joseph Potter, who we only saw very, very briefly in series 2. So, it must have been exciting for him to be introduced as that character, knowing that at some point he was going to have an immense amount to do. But at the same time, his process in series 2, it was such a tiny little scene that he was in. But he will be a huge part of series 2 as we find out about his time with the Coven and Lestat's time with the Coven, creating the Théâtre de Vampires with Armand. And then I'm guessing at the end of it, unless they introduce her earlier, we're going to meet Akasha, who is, of course, the central figure of Queen of the Damned. And we know from Roland Jones's interviews at Austin that basically when the series starts, Lestat is already on effectively his Eras tour.
Nice.
We're going to join him at stop 33 of the 50 tour. And I'm like, Jesus, Lestat. That's pretty good going. 33 stops. So obviously by the time it starts, he's already going to be like a mega star. And his tour is a pure reaction to the release of Interview with the Vampire by Daniel Malloy. I cannot wait to see Sam Reed with Eric Bogosian. I think that's going to be a phenomenal pairing.
Yeah, and because they are just on the IMDb page, the only 3 cast members that are confirmed on there at the moment are Eric, Jacob, and Sam. So they're definitely going to be sharing, I imagine, quite a few scenes together.
Well, I would imagine that they're going to take the old kind of MTV style, behind the scenes look at the tour, and that Daniel will be videoing that, because we saw that from the teaser that they released. And I loved in that the SDCC teaser that they started obviously with the Stuart Townsend Queen of the Damned lookalike, and then they brought in Sam Reed, effectively kind of dressed as 1970s Mark Bolan. But Roland Jones has already said that the teaser that they released is kind of a misdirect in terms of the music. So I'm assuming that Lestat's going to cover a wide variety of genres. I mean, Sam Reid has a beautiful singing voice. He's quite shy about it, but he was in the North Country Bob Dylan musical that was at the Old Vic, and there is the clip of him singing "I Want You" on the One Show, which, you know, his voice is fantastic, and of course we've heard him sing "Come to Me" in the show. But there is, of course, a difference between, you know, that musical was an interesting musical, and it wasn't like he was a huge part of it, but at the same time, it wasn't a big sing for him. And there's a difference between doing a song here and there and all of a sudden being Taylor Swift. So I imagine that's been a huge challenge for him. We know that his vocal coach is Matthew Santos. He's been posting on Instagram about working with Sam, and he is in. They released two very quick teasers. They've released sort of the very silly board which had all the fake stuff from the series, but it had Louis and Lestat at Disneyland. And if they don't show me that, then frankly, I'm going to riot, because I can't imagine anything more amazing. Because, you know, Lestat would love every second, and Louis would be in absolute hell.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. Just imagining them on a ride. What ride would they go on?
Lestat would be absolutely enamored of the Haunted Mansion. He would be enamored of the Haunted Mansion. He would have multiple different pairs of Minnie and Mickey ears to wander around, depending on his mood. Louis would just be dressed all in black, I suspect, and just kind of channeling, you know, dragged husband energy. You know, you see the dads there that are just like, yeah, great, I'm so happy, while Lestat is wandering around posing with, you know, massive Mickey shaped food that of course he doesn't eat because it doesn't taste of anything, but he wants to post the pictures for his socials. So yeah, I love that. And there was all kinds of daft stuff on that. And then we got a very 2-second look at Sam Reid singing, but not really. So that was huge fun. That was huge fun. And yeah, I mean, I suspect they're going to save the big casting, Gabrielle, Akasha, and Marius, who is Amon's maker, for SDCC. We might get another song for SDCC. People on the internet have been slightly weird about Jacob being in it. Of course, Jacob's in it. He's the co-lead.
Yeah.
He's the co-lead. We know he's in Toronto. He's, you know, absolutely thrilled to be in the series. I'm not worried at all about Louis' position in the show, but I will be intrigued to see how they manage the relationship, because I imagine that, like, Louis has taken some time to be with himself, maybe gotten himself some therapy, read a lot of self-help books, trying to get out there a little bit more, kind of do his, I imagine him sort of fronting art collectives and being sort of, I mean, not a name, because obviously you're a vampire, so you need a certain amount of anonymity, but being a little bit more of a presence in the art world rather than just kind of staying behind the scenes, even if he's sort of does it in a Banksy type way. Not creating the art, but just in terms of facilitating others. Whereas Lestat is obviously out there doing his thing. In the book, he becomes a musician to protect Louis, because he decides that the only way that he can protect Louis from everybody that wants to kill him is by being even more of a nuisance to the vampire world, which is a very Lestat thing to do. Instead of just being like, you know what, I'm going to be here for Louis. I'm going to help him. I'm going to make sure his security is good. I'm going to be here when he's in need. He's like, no, I'm going to be a rock star. And then the vampires will come after me instead, which is insane, but that's the step for you. And presumably part of it is going to be a reaction to his unflattering portrayal in the book as well. who's going to be telling his story through his lyrics. I don't think we're going to have much of a replay of the events from Lestat's point of view, because the whole point is not to show that Louis is a liar, because Sam Reed has said that he can't imagine anything worse than that. So I don't think they'll be doing that. But I do hope that Delaney is in it. I would love Ghost Claudia. I think that would be fantastic. We know that she is out there filming, is it Carrie, Mike Flanagan's Carrie?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we need another series of Carrie. He said filming. I'm not sure we need another Carrie, even if it is by Mike Flanagan, who we both adore. But obviously, we're very happy for Delaney to continue to be gainfully employed. So I'm kind of hoping that she does pitch up. More than anything, I want to see more scenes of Claudia and Lestat, because we've not really seen that yet. We've seen that really short sequence with Bailey in the first series when they're beautifully happy, and then of course it just all goes horrifically downhill. And I think for the trial to work, we need to see how much Lestat loved Claudia, which I don't think we've seen so far.
Yeah, and obviously, like, Louis wouldn't necessarily be privy to those private moments between
Yeah.
Lestat and Claudia. And, in terms of, just editing an interview together, Daniel could easily have glossed over those aspects from her diary, because he's focusing on Louis as his subject. So yeah, it would make sense for there to be a little bit more delving into that relationship, because I mean, yes, we've discussed how he kind of maybe tolerated Claudia because it kept Louis happy, but equally I don't feel that Lestat would happily, just for however many years, just keep around this irritation. He doesn't seem that sort of person. So I think we do need to see the context that explains why he, other than just Louis, why he was prepared to put up with that hostility from his daughter. Something that a lot of parents experience, particularly during the teenage years, of this thing that you brought into the world suddenly hating you, and you having to still be there and support them, despite how you might feel about them, calling you all of the names under the sun. So I think it would be good to delve into that a little bit more.
Yeah, because at the moment, it's basically Sam Reed's, absolutely heartbreaking expression when Claudia dies that is doing all of the heavy lifting. I think Delaney recently did an interview where she said that, she saw that that Claudia in that moment was like, why is he looking so upset? Oh my God, I did mean something to him. And that's kind of pretty much like her last thought, because she's looking to him for help. And that's the last thing that she sees. And obviously, the one thing that they need to revisit is the trial. I've been, we haven't gotten into series 2 yet, but I've been surprised at the level of discourse around the trial and the number of people that seem to think that Lestat willingly participated in the trial, and that he sort of changed his mind halfway through, that he came there to kill Louis and Claudia and kind of half-heartedly changed his mind and then saved Louis because he loves Louis but couldn't be asked for Claudia. I don't think any of that is true. I love the show more than anything. It's also not a subtle show in many ways. So, it's very clear that he's got bruises. There's, this is not Sam Reed walking into a scene with bruises on his hands. There are clear bruise marks because they're meant to be. Various scenes, he looks horrific. So we need to revisit the trial to see, what happened there. I want to know how long Lestat was in France for, because I wouldn't be that surprised if he was there the entire time that Claudia and Louis were being held captive by Oman. I mean, if Roland Jones really wants to destroy people, Lestat will have been in captivity the entire time they were there.
Yeah, just watching and hearing of, I can see like some scenes with like Armand visiting him and just being like very bitchy about like it's my boyfriend now, and just kind of like really regaling him with stories of him and Louis' grand love affair.
Exactly, because I think that the character of Armand is absolutely fascinating, because you can't really tell what his motivations are from minute to the next, because like he does what he does to regain power and control, but does he really care about any of these people in the coven when he could just have had a genuine life with Louis? But then he was would have been continually threatened by Louis' continuing love for Lestat, his inability to have Lestat, which is a huge theme in The Vampire. That Lestat continually turns him down, because, of course, all we've seen so far is basically Armand's fan fiction of him meeting Lestat. And Sam Reed in a recent interview said that, that very sexualized, clown-like Harlequin, which is fantastic. It's a beautiful sequence. But that's all Armand, baby. That's not Lestat.
Yeah.
The chances are he looked nothing like that. In the book, he's not the clown, he's the hero. He's the romantic hero. And Armand reimagines him as the literal clown when he meets him. And, this very preening, sexualized clown at that. So that sequence from the Stats point of view would be phenomenal, because I somehow doubt he's dressed like that, acting like that, or anything else. The scene where he tells them he cost someone his coven with a cross, yeah, absolutely. And I feel that we're going to see that Amanda's a man much like me, that can keep grudges for many, many years. So he's like, fuck you. You cost me my coven, therefore I'm going to destroy your life. But no, there is no way that Lestat willingly participated in the trial in any way, shape, or form. He didn't go there for revenge or anything like that. And if they show that, I'm actually going to be disappointed, because that's just not the character in the book. In the book, he very clearly goes to protect Louis, and he has an agreement with them on, and he's imprisoned for a period of time beforehand, so he is too weak to be able to do very much. And there's no way he only had the strength to save one. I think thought, he couldn't save Claudia. But that is going to haunt him. So yes, I very, very much want Delaney back. I think she'd be phenomenal. But you're right, all we know so far are Eric, Jacob, and Sam. There are some casting rumors. So I just want to say, I always feel that we should basically harness the collective power and investigative prowess of fandoms and use it to cure cancer. Because I reckon it would be done in a day. In a day. Because we already have casting rumors, and these are based on people trawling who is following who on Instagram. So we have Elise Bauman, a non-binary actor that people are suggesting might be playing Tough Cookie, who is part of Lestat's band, Satan's Night Out. She has recently been followed on Instagram by Hannah Moscovich, who is, of course, one of the key members of the writing team. And she posted she was looking for a sublet in Toronto for 2 months. I mean, the fact that people find these things, I love each and every one of you. You are extraordinary. Then, Janelle, most of the info that we have seen so far from the set, because so far the set has been completely closed, as we would expect. So much films in Toronto at any given time that they're really on it in terms of security. And I'm kind of not surprised, because the show has grown so much in the past year. And like last year, they were like very welcoming to fans in Prague and Paris, but I feel if they took the same tone this year, they might be creating absolute chaos for themselves. So everything so far has been I mean, you can wait outside, I guess, if you wanted, but it's been very closed off. So there's been no pictures. I'll be surprised if we get much. They're probably not going to want shots of Sam Reed out there in the vampire garb if they can avoid it.
Yeah.
And with Toronto having so many different sound stages and everything else that they can do, I think it's probably easy for them to be able to avoid all that sort of thing. But most of the information has been coming from Janelle Green, who is the makeup artist. And, I mean, she hasn't posted anything of consequence, but she did post a microphone which says Larry on it, who is another member of the band, and it says Noah, so Noah/Larry. So people think that might be Noah Reid, who was, of course, in Schitt's Creek. He was the character that gets married to Dan Levy's character. He has recently been followed by Hannah Muscovich, Elise, and more importantly, Matthew Santos, who is the vocal coach. So, I mean, that's a pretty good shout. And that's quite a good name for them. That's quite a decent name for them. And then there are two people whose agencies have basically announced them. So there is Roger Honeywell, who is a slightly older gentleman with a sort of what looks like bleached blonde hair. I'm going to go with the Stats Dad for him because I just can't imagine them allowing Marius or Magnus to be announced via somebody's agency website.
No, not at all.
And then there's somebody called Michael Cox, and he could be anybody, but I'm going to go with the Stats Brother. And that's all we kind of have now in terms of intel. Janelle Green has posted a whole ton of Urban Decay stuff that they're using on the stat, and this made me very, very happy because I am an Urban Decay girl. I did post on our socials the sheer ridiculous number of Urban Decay palettes that I have. I did pick up the Metal Mania palette that they're using on the stat because I got it cheap on eBay, and it is beautiful. It is like a Rockstar palette. All of they're all shiny metallics, and all of the names of them are kind of like Rockstar inspired. So I cannot wait to see the looks that they are coming up with it. I mean, Urban Decay were great. They had all this range in the 90s, which I still have to, although of course they're long expired, of these lipsticks that had like daggers. So when you opened it, you literally pulled out the dagger to be able to use the lipstick. And I want them to do, if they have basically like just given all this makeup to the production, I want to interview with a vampire range. Come on, guys. I want coffins and rock stars and daggers. Let's do a collab. Let's do ourselves a little collab. Because that's all. We don't know much more at the moment. We don't know any of the casting. They will also have to cast Stats Lawyer, who is a smallish part in the book, but I can imagine her having a much larger role in the series. They need to have a social media account for Lestat, but it needs to. I love the Anne Rice account, but sometimes they kind of go for a bit of a basic read of some things. We'll talk about Talamasca at the moment, but the profiles of Lestat and Louis that they've put up at the moment read like an AI scrape of the internet rather than the actual series. So I would like, obviously they're not going to have fan involvement because why would they? But I want somebody who loves the series, who's really tuned in to the fans and what the fans love, to be able to kind of run a social media account for Lestat, because you know he would be cancelled a million times over. He's going to be out there fighting with everybody. He's going to be starting beef with Taylor Swift fans. He's going to be out there annoying the Bayhive, doing everything he can to get cancelled every other second, challenging Miley Cyrus to a fight. You know, all of it. It would be incredible. And I'm really looking, hoping for more merchandise, because the fan merchandise is so much better. There's oh, please forgive me for not knowing the name, but there's a fantastic Twitter user who produces tickets. So like Vampire Lestat tour tickets, which I know some fans got Sam Reed to sign when he was recently in New York, and they're so good. And like the merch at the moment just isn't it, guys? Like where are the recreations of Louis' photographs? Where is my the scroll, the letter? Like if you go on put down Temu, they have merch. They've got
Mm.
merch. I mean, they're terrible. They steal other people's designs. There's an artist who put together a phenomenal comic, and like they've stolen randomly one page of it that features Claudia for a tin sign. There are other people's. There's not much. I long for the day when you type interview with a vampire into these things and I don't have to see Brad Pitt's face. I long for that precious day. But at the moment, it's mostly Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt merch. But, you know, there is so much opportunity here. Like, we want makeup, we want rock star stuff. And I can understand that people are upset that the marketing opportunities haven't been as strong for the first two series when, of course, Jacob Anderson was the lead. I mean, vampire rockstar is a hugely commercial, hugely marketable
Yeah.
concept. And the series, I think, the fandom, I think, has grown very, very significantly since series 2 aired. I mean, I feel like it has stepped up such a degree online. I mean, the Emmys are announced on July the 15th, and you know we're not getting anything. And I'm going to be so sad. It's going to be all Severance, White Lotus, Last of Us. Last of Us series 2 wasn't even that good. And probably The Pit. I feel like Noah Wyle is probably the one to beat in terms of best actor. All of the supporting actors, because I've seen how the Emmys announced previously, I can like the last series of Succession, they just nominated the entire cast. I can
Yeah.
see the supporting actors just being made up entirely of White Lotus and Severance. I can see the actors being probably Noah Wyle, Adam Scott, Walter Goggins, Pedro Pascal, and then probably some other movie star. I just don't see Jacob getting in there, not because I don't think he's great, because obviously I think he's absolutely phenomenal. I think the sequence alone in the first series of series 2, when he realizes that Claudia did dream and that her diaries are not necessarily reflective of what real life actually was, and he's recalling his memories, is the single most powerful thing I've ever seen. I think he is phenomenal. I think he clears every single one of those actors that I've just mentioned. And I say that with love because I think they're all absolutely fantastic. But people don't like genre. Demi Moore didn't win the Oscar, did she?
Yeah, it's people don't like genre, but then it's also
It's
it is
queer.
the name thing. Well, there's a queer, but
Queer.
there's also just the name recognition because, like you
Yeah,
say, you know, then you've got Pedro Pascal, Walter Goggins. You know, these are people who have been in films for years as well. They don't just have that particular show fandom;
yeah,
they have others. And I think sometimes, I mean, as a voting member of obviously not the Emmys, but of like some critics things, a lot of time it seems to not necessarily be on the performance or whatever that the person is doing there, but what they've done previously. It's like, oh
yeah.
well, you know, like Leonardo DiCaprio, you know, oh well, he hasn't been nominated, he's never won an Oscar before, so shall we just give it him for this film where his performance isn't
Yeah, I mean,
some of his
absolutely,
others.
because he won for The Revenant, which is all right. It's not that great. When he clearly should have won for Wolf of Wall Street. So
Yeah,
that's how it works. That's how it works. I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you've got Noah Wyle basically playing middle-aged Carter. He's.
yeah,
I mean, I don't mean that in an offensive way. I'm not suggesting that he is just repeating his work. He's a very, very firm actor, and the pit stands are terrifying. Don't come after me. But you know, everybody loved ER. You've got the nostalgia thing. He did ER. He hasn't really done that much of much name recognition since, and now he's come back and everyone is like, my God, he's an incredible actor. Why did we not do more with this guy? So
Yeah.
I think he's a lock for it. And then yeah, you've got Walter Goggins from The White Lotus, who, as you said, is phenomenal in absolutely everything. You've got Pedro. I mean, the Vanity Fair article with Pedro that has just come out is the most extraordinarily beautiful, sensitive thing. He is riding absolutely high. The Fantastic Four could be appalling and it will not touch him. That's how good he is. Because you could not say that for anyone else. But for Pedro, if Fantastic Four crashes and burns, doesn't matter. He's going to be fine. I don't even think The Last of Us Series 2 was all that. I still think he'll get nominated. Adam Scott is an absolute lock for Severance. And then it will be most likely a movie star. I feel that the world of TV has moved to such a degree that now the problem is you have all these movie stars doing these one shots. I mean, Robert De Niro did a series for Netflix, and I can't even remember the name of it because it kind of came out and didn't have much cultural impact. But he was in a series for Netflix. So
Yeah.
he come, you know, you've got all of these massive stars, and so people are always nominating huge movie stars for things that aren't necessarily watched that much. And for the supporting actors, I don't see Sam Reid as a hope in hell. I mean, I love him. I think he's phenomenal, but I think it's going to be purely Severance and The White Lotus. I mean, Sam Rockwell is going in as supporting for The White Lotus because I think from a raw point of view, he's in too much of it to be a guest, but obviously not really enough to be supporting. But I'll be astounded if he doesn't get a nomination because that 5 minute monologue that he did went so viral.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. It's like, how do you judge these things? I love Sam Rockwell. I think he's astonishing. I was so thrilled he won the Oscar. Again, like we just said, is that his best work? No, but he's been consistently magnificent, and this is what we do. This is what award bodies do. They award the body of work, and they award the person rather than the actual work itself. But he's likely to get a nomination for a 5 minute monologue, and you've got Sam Reid pouring his heart and soul into Lestat, and he's not going to stand a chance. Same with Jacob. Jacob doing the most incredible, phenomenal work, and highly likely to be basically gazumped by some movie star if he did a one shot that we don't even remember. And that's how it works. And it's why you can't get too invested in things like the
Yeah.
Emmys. And then we have the other issue that AMC has no money. I mean, the For You consider they wheeled out Sam Reid for the For Your Consideration events. Jacob clearly didn't fancy it and stayed with his family. Good for him. But they don't, it's a show that fans love. I mean, it's been great to see every critic's name it as their dream pick. All of these ballots that are coming out at the moment, Interview with the Vampire is always on there as a dream pick, a wish list. We wish more people were watching it. People got very upset online, and I understand why, at the tone of one of the critics who was like, I don't think people are watching that. And it was so dismissive, but it's also true. I mean, unnecessarily dismissive tone, but true that voters are not watching something queer, something genre, something from AMC, not when they can watch something else. They're just not. And AMC just don't have the cash. I mean, they're kind of odd, like they sent out a beautiful, beautiful promo box for Series 3, which had like wine and a chalice and Lestat's Rider, which was huge fun, which had things like no mirrors in the room, which is quite interesting because the last time we saw him looking in a mirror was 5 minutes before the trial, 10 minutes before the trial, before he comes in. It's like the worst day of his life, which I thought was really interesting. And it's all things like he wants certain glasses and stuff like that. And it was really well put together by the marketing team. But it's like, why are you putting so much money into that to hand out to a handful of critics and influencers instead of targeting the voters? Like, there were a handful of posters, but you know, we need a little more. But they don't have the cash. I mean, they couldn't get The Walking Dead a single Emmy or a single
Yeah.
acting Emmy, and that was when that was on one of the biggest shows on the network. Interview with the Vampire is very small in comparison. So yeah, we have to steel ourselves, I'm afraid. But I'm hoping for a good splash at SDCC. Hopefully we get both Jacob, Sam, and Eric, and then hopefully Gabrielle, Akasha, Marius. That would be lovely. I don't have any fan casts for Akasha. I'd like to be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I think I never get too involved in fan casting with anything really. I mean, mainly because it's like there's a whole thing at the moment about who's going to be Patrick Bateman in the American Psycho remake, and it's like, I mean, there's people that I'd maybe like think would do a decent job, but I'm not. I'm never. It has to be this person, or So yeah, I am happy. I mean, I've trusted what the showrunners and casting directors have done so far with this show, so I am prepared to just see who they announce.
Yeah, I sort of see what you mean. Fan casting is a difficult one because, like, a lot of the fan cast for Gabrielle have been quite obvious people, like Gillian Anderson. I think it would be good to have somebody French or Italian. A lot of the fan casting tends to go really, really young as well. I mean, we need an actress in her 50s or 60s to play
Mm.
Cameron's mother, for God's sake. He's in his late 30s. Everyone keeps naming, you know, actresses that are 42 or something, and it's like, no, she needs to have realistically given birth to Samrit. So yeah, it will be interesting to see who they've cast, because obviously they've cast them already, but I think they are saving that up for SDCC. We've seen the series logo as well, which is kind of the cascading notes, and it also looks like lines of cocaine, which is very fun from a Lestat point of view. It's yeah, I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, I'm sort of like, the whole set thing is an interesting one because I think it can lead to really bad behavior, but the desire to know is always so strong as well. I'm glad that they're in Toronto, which has such good security, and I'm glad that it will enable them to kind of control what they want to release if you've got completely closed sets and sound stages. But yeah, and I cannot wait to hear Daniel Hart's music. I mean, my biggest lament is the lack of any kind of vinyl for the first two
Yeah.
series. I mean, where are my scores? It's the most beautiful score. If there are any Emmys, I would love Daniel Hart to get something for his score, and I would love Carol Cutzel to have something for costumes and for the makeup as well, because they deserve it. I mean, they all deserve it, but we have to be realistic about the likelihood of them only getting technical nominations. And their work is so, so good. It would be fantastic to have that. But yeah, that's all we know about Series 3 so far. I'm hoping we know more in the coming months. When is SDCC? It's like the end of next month, isn't it?
Yeah, it tends to be July, doesn't it?
I hope they don't have, well, I suppose they will. So last year was hilarious in that they did that joint Mayfair Witches Interview with the Vampire signing, where they had Delaney, Sam, and Assad, and they did the terrible, terrible organizational choice of putting the witches first. And so everyone just walked past the witches in the long line to get to the Interview with the Vampire guys. Oh, no. I mean, it's been renewed. I mean, good for them, but you've seen it, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been watching Mayfair Witches. I can't profess. I think at some point we'll probably do maybe a one-off episode where we talk about like
Yeah,
the whole
like
show, the show as a whole. But I can't profess to being as into it as Interview the
Mm,
Vampire. I mean, I love Alexandra Daddario, and she is the main reason why I watched it, full stop. Um, so, and I will continue to watch it because of her involvement. It's very, I don't know. No disrespect meant at all, but it's a little campier, a little trashier
yeah.
in terms of its storyline. It's kind of very much a story that we've seen a lot with witches. It's got this almost, the first season's got this kind of almost forbidden love element to the story, and then in series two that completely switches around, and there's lots of characters, there's lots of high drama, but it can be a little hard to figure out what's going on. I think
Okay.
I got about halfway through the second series and was like, I'm not really sure what's happening yet. And then it brought it round in the end, which is, the important thing. And as you say, it has been renewed for a third series. They have started to bring in references to interview. So Lestat's little rat catcher friend had a conversation with one of the main characters, and then there's been, because the Talamasca do feature quite heavily in Mayfair Witches. There is at least one of the main characters is an agent for the Talamasca, and so we see them going for meetings and stuff with them. And through series two, there is mention of Daniel is working on his book. They've read Daniel's book. They're trying to suppress his book, but as we know from what's happening with series three, that hasn't worked. So it's trying to bring itself into interview, I guess, in the hopes of bringing sort of interviews audience across to it.
It's fun to have, I mean, that's obviously a fantastic starting point to talk about Talamasca, which is premiering on AMC in October. They've just released their website, which is talamas.ca. So obviously Talamasca, but very cleverly done in terms of the web address. And they've put some entities of interest on there. As I said, this is the one that slightly reads like an AI scrape of the internet, because we've got Lestat de Lioncourt, but the picture they've used is the picture of the Lestat flat standee, not even a picture of Sam Reed with his contacts in, God bless them. And it's got things like aliases, the Brat Prince, which obviously hasn't been used in the show yet. He becomes the Brat Prince because he becomes the prince at the end. It says, in addition to baseline vampiric powers, can also levitate, a power known as the cloud gift, yes, has been known to turn humans against their will, which we assume is a reference to David Talbot, but again, that's not in the show yet. That's a reference to the Tale of the Body Thief. And previous lovers are a weak spot. Yeah, no shit. But that's very book specific, which is why these kind of read a little bit like an AI scrape. Then we have Claudia de Lioncourt de Pont-de-Lac. My God, would she hate that? She would like to be known as Claudia de Pont-de-Lac, I suspect, not Claudia de Lioncourt de Pont-de-Lac. Aliases Baby Lulu, My Little Milkweed. She will come back and haunt the person who wrote this up, because I can't imagine she would cope with either of those. It has their dates of birth as well. So it has Lestat being born on 7th of November 1760, Claudia September the 21st, 1903. Deceased. Fledgling period was rife with many kills, many of which were never identified. Possesses impressive telepathic abilities. Good for her. Manner of death, execution by sunlight. And then we have Rowan, Lasher. And then for some reason, Louise is locked, but people are clever and they managed to find it online because people are smart and much sharper than us. And let's see if I can find it that is written out. It says Louis de Pont-de-Lac, aliases Dark Angel, Merciful Death. Again, he's not been called that in the series, but Merciful Death is a hard nickname, and I entirely approve.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Like, if people were like, he is the Dark Angel, I would be like, that is so fucking cool. I mean, again, neither of these, Louis not been called anything like that in the series. Date of birth, October the 4th, 1877. Location, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. And they haven't got a location for Lestat. And we were all a bit like, how exactly, Talamasca, are you that good if you don't know where Lestat's location is, for Christ's sake? Like, the man is loud. And the notes are empathetic. Of course, Louis is empathetic. Still has understanding of human emotion. Claims hasn't drunk human blood non-consensually since 2000. Claims doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Maker is documented as his former lover, Lestat Lyoncourt. It's fun. It's fun. I mean, there's a lot there that just isn't in the series. They also have profiles which we won't read out, but for Lasha and Rowan Mayfair. And then there's like it's got like a map of where a global entities tracker of where they think vampires are. And there's been a really brief teaser that was released this week. And we don't know all that much about it so far. We sort of know that it's going to presumably follow, it's going to be like a sort of a spy show, I guess, tracking all of the various different entities. We're going to have part of the immortal universe, and it's going to I guess follow our entry character through and then have him meeting the various different key people. It's starring William Fichtner, who you have met, and I'm extremely jealous. I love him. I love him so much. He's amazing. Elizabeth McGovern, I think I'm the only person on the planet that never watched Downton Abbey.
Oh no, I didn't either.
Nope. Did not care in one way. Like period dramas for me are this, particularly English period dramas. Like, I don't get what I'm supposed to like about this. I don't care about rich people. I don't want to go back to a time when I didn't have any decent rights. Like, I don't get this sort of weird nostalgia for the ways of the past. To me, it's slightly beyond me. But yeah, our gateway character is going to be Guy Anatoli, played by Nicholas Denton, who is also an Aussie. I haven't seen him in anything. William Fichtner is Jasper. We've already seen pictures of him with fingernails, so presumably he's a vampire. Elizabeth McGovern as Helen, and Maisie Richardson Sellers. Maisie as Olive. Celine Buckens as Doris, a character who lives with a coven of witches on a houseboat. Good for you, girl. Olive is Guy Anatoli's American handler. Elizabeth McGovern is Helen, who is concerned about London's mother house. They obviously have it's going to be I feel like this is going to be sort of the vampire tracking equivalent of Slow Horses with Gary Oldman, them tracking place there where they. So Helen is worried about London's mother house falling under traitorous elements, and she recruits Guy. And yeah, he just described as Jasper, who's taken power of the London mother house. And then, of course, we have Jason Schwartzman as a vampire. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, obviously, I think Jason Schwartzman and William Fichtner are I guess the biggest names, but of them, Schwartzman especially, obviously known for he's part of the Coppola clan and all of his work with Wes Anderson, and it seems an odd fit, but he's definitely playing some sort of vampire called Burton, isn't he?
Yeah, he's playing a vamp called Burton. But if you'd seen, he was in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes as the sort of the Flickerman character, who is the predecessor to Stanley Tucci's Caesar Flickerman. I probably said that completely wrong, but that sounds right to me. And he was great in that. He was so much fun. And so I feel like he wants to have I feel like he's in his fun era. You know what I mean? I feel like he's embracing his fun life now. because he was in Rushmore and, as you said, Asteroid City, Darjeeling games, but he was great in this. I think he's such a brilliant actor, and I think he'll be great fun in this. And it's going to be, obviously, the idea is that the Talamasca are bad people, I imagine, and that the vampires are not all bad. I imagine that's where we're going to go with it. I mean, some of them are all bad, except for Louis, who can do no wrong in my eyes. And Lestat, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to. I think the thing with the Talamasca is it's going to open up the potential for bringing everything. At the moment, we've had Mayfair Witches, we've had Interview the Vampire, but the Talamasca can then bring all of those entities into one. You know, you've mentioned covens and things there, so we're going to get witches at some point in the show. I think that's already sort of been teased in the footage that we've seen, and
We should
obviously
also have
vampires.
werewolves as
I'm
well.
going to
We should
say,
have
like,
werewolves.
like what else is out there? I wonder if the show's going to give us anything else. But in terms of crew, we have another Schwartzman. We also have John Schwartzman as the
Oh,
cinematographer, who is the half brother of Jason.
amazing.
Uh, he he was a cinematographer on both the Simple Favor films, so A Simple Favor and Another Simple Favor, and he also did Jurassic World Dominion. So got some big titles
Oh,
under his belt. It's not his first rodeo, and I wonder what the relationship's like between the brothers, and if he's giving Jason preferential good lighting or if he's making him look ghastly.
oh yeah. You would want your, because like the thing is, you've got to have the cinematographer on your side. You got to have them
Exactly.
be. You want good lighting. You want everything to be looking nice and be fantastic. I realized they did do the picture of the Interview with the Vampire clapperboard, didn't they? Which did reveal they're shooting in order, which I was a bit surprised at, because they're starting with episode 1, which did reveal, I think Craig Zisk is the director, and I think he directed Don't Start the Tape, and the cinematographer for the first episode is David Tattersall, and I think he was the cinematographer in series 1 as well. So yeah, very exciting. That's for Interview the Vampire, to have them both back in the series. Oh, he's a British cinematographer as well. Very cool. He's done all kinds of different things. But yeah, great to have him back in the show. And Craig Zisk, let me see. He definitely did Don't Start the Tape, which is such a good episode. Such an incredible episode. It's going to be so much fun to have all these guys back. And yeah, I'm really interested in Talamasca, because it's going to be. Oh yeah, he directed What Can the Damned Really Say to the Damned, and Don't Be Afraid, Just Start the Tape. So he's on board for the first episode of Interview the Vampire Series 3. And I like the idea in Talamasca of having like the spy series looking at all of their characters. I mean, I imagine the file on Lestat must be massive, and the agents are just like, what the fuck is he doing now? What is he doing? Who has he changed? Who is he sleeping with? No, we. I mean, I imagine them just having absolute nervous breakdown every time Lestat goes on Twitter. Just like, who would want to be the handler having to deal with him? It's going to be a nightmare. I mean, it never went anywhere, but there was an idea for Marvel about having the character that's in Ant-Man, who was like the kind of the law enforcement character, being the guy that was going around like mopping up after all of the superheroes. And I thought that was just such a fun idea, and they never went anywhere with it, which was such a crying shame, because it would have been so much fun. Yeah, it was going to be Randall Park's character going around as like because he was I think he was in the FBI, going around and sort of just solving everything or being like, what's going on. And that would have been such fun. And I think like Talamasca is the same idea. So you've got all these guys trying to keep tabs on what Lestat's doing, what Louis is doing, where the hell Armand is. Of course, the whole thing about series 3 is where, we left Armand in a very bad place at the end of series 2.
Mm.
He's going to be very upset, wanting vengeance and all the rest of it. and what's he going to be doing with his life? Having to track all these people and being terrified that they're increasing all the time. I mean, in the books, the stat makes a new fledgling at every 4 seconds. I don't think he's going to be quite so free and easy in the series, but they have to track them all. I think it'll be fun. I think it's going to be a really fun series. We've not seen enough to kind of know the tone they're taking with it. I'm imagining something a bit like Ultraviolet, which people will not have watched. And if you have not watched, you need to immediately go and find it. Immediately go and find it. Ultraviolet is a one-shot series from the UK from years and years and years ago. It stars a very young Idris Elba. Basically, the idea is that it is a series of agents tracking vampiric activity in the UK. And it was very much focused on them being kind of like a quasi-military organization. They were never called vampires. They were always called Vs. And it was about kind of untangling like a conspiracy of what the vampires were doing. It was such a good series. And it just, I mean, it was it's one of the very few where it's like, why did this not have, way ahead of its time. Way ahead of its time. And I just think it just never got the sort of the start it should have. But I can see Talamasca going kind of the same way with it. I think it would be, it's quite funny. Like, even if you Google it, what comes up is the
Mila Jovovich film.
The very terrible Mila Jovovich film. Yeah, no, my God, please don't watch that. It's not that. I promise. It's a TV series. My God, please don't watch that. I would never forgive myself. No, it is a TV series. Yeah, literally from 1998. I'm sure you can find it somewhere. Yeah, it's by Joe Ahern, Jack Davenport, Susanna Harker, Idris Elba, Philip Quast. They weren't called vampires, they were called Vs. The paramilitary unit had special like ultraviolet guns that they could shoot at the vampires, which is kind of an idea that Blade had as well. It was only ever one series. So good. Such a good series. And I remember may as well spoil it, from 1998, guys. It's 27 years old. The whole idea is the vampires were trying to orchestrate a nuclear winter so that it would be permanent darkness across the world and they could take over the human race. And of course, it never went anywhere because the series was cancelled, or I think it was either cancelled or Joe Ahern couldn't think of a follow-up, which is, But I can see Talamasca being in the same vein. Ultraviolet took itself not too seriously, but it was a drama. It wasn't a comedy, and it leant into the conspiracy elements. And so I can see, and like not all the guys were good. Some of them had, like, I think the leader was terminally ill, and of course the vampires were continually using that against him. God, this series has stayed with me. Like, there was one about the vampires were trying to breed. They were trying to get people pregnant, and it was like ghost pregnancies. My God, I can remember all of this, my friend.
Yeah, my memories of it are hazier than yours. I sort of remembered the cast and the rough premise, but yeah, it's. I think, like I say, if you want a taster of like at least some elements of the Talamasca, like I say, they are heavily featured in Mayfair Witches. It's none of the same cast though. In the second series, they go to Amsterdam and they meet the head of the Talamasca in Amsterdam, and it is Franca Potente from the Bourne films and Run Lola Run. So yeah, they've obviously got these clusters in every city all over the world, sort of thing, and they're all interconnected. So it will be interesting because that obviously opens the door for crossovers easily with Mayfair Witches. And we've been to Amsterdam in Mayfair Witches. Maybe we'll get Franca Potente turning up at some point to have a chat with somebody. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And most importantly, it is another. It's a little stop off in this universe
Yeah, they call it
while
the
we wait
immortal.
for series 3.
Yeah, because they call it the immortal universe, don't they? And they've already filmed it. We know Eric Bogosian shows up because we know he was filming in Manchester. He was the Manchester Evening News. It wasn't even fans. This was just the Manchester Evening News taking pictures of the set, and Eric Bogosian was snapped on set. And there was a bookshop. So that is going to be. It was all filmed in Manchester, and I think that will be, Talamasca, like intervening or speaking to him or trying to control like a book signing. But that will be cool. So that will be, and I imagine that's probably going to be the extent of the interview with the vampire, apart from mentioning, I imagine, where Lestat is, where Armand is, because you don't want things to be too interconnected. I mean, this is where Marvel went horribly wrong. It needs to stand on its own. From what I've seen, I don't think they're taking a comedic tone with it, so I am fully expecting it to be, like we said, in the kind of the vein of the Ultraviolet type of thing, with the organizations across the world tracking and taking it all quite seriously because of them being obviously a potential really existential threat to humanity. And yeah, it's interesting. So if they're having, I mean, I feel that releasing again, these were set pictures, but I hope it's not meant to have been a gotcha that Jasper's a vampire, because otherwise the set pictures have already shown that. Unless he's just wearing the nails as a fake out. Who knows? Until we see the series in context, we won't know. William Fichtner is one of my favorite actors in the world. He is extraordinary in everything. So I am very, very much looking for. I mean, if you're going to cast him, he's either going to be the elder statesman or the villain. Yeah. There's no way otherwise. But they could also flip it and have Miss McGovern as the true villain of the piece, because certainly that's the way it could go. But I am looking forward to seeing it. We've only had a tiny little teaser so far, so we're hoping to do more. We certainly want to cover it when it comes out in October. So AMC, get in touch, my friends. We will be all over it. And in the meantime, we're going to be just living off scraps until we get series 3, because I doubt we'll get something at SDCC. You will get casting announcements, I am sure, at a minimum of Gabrielle and Natasha. I suspect if they've got Noah Reid as well for the band, I suspect they just bring the band out on stage, because the band are cool. It would be huge fun. It would be huge fun for Sam Reid to show up in character, because he is so horribly nervous at these things. I mean, if you watch the SDCC panel, at the point before they show the teaser, you honestly want to hug him. He's so nervous. The huge deep breath he takes. The man looks terrified. So I actually think because for the recent FYC events, he kind of went with a little bit of a character dressing theme. So he had like some necklaces and he had some rings, and there was some like writing on his hands that we said probably represented those who must be kept. I think it would be fun for him to kind of lean into the character so that he's there as Lestat rather than himself, and that kind of might take the pressure off, because I imagine if he was stressed before, the prospect of going to SDCC with the entire series now being centered on him would be the kind of thing that I would need medication for.
Yeah, it'd also be like, just from a news perspective, it would get the show a lot of coverage because he's there in character and not just as him. So you can do write-ups about his performance for whatever in the convention as well.
Yeah, when Tom Hiddleston went dressed as Loki, I mean, the coverage was extraordinary. And I mean, even the nonsense. I mean, it's the laziest casting in the world. I'm sorry, Marvel. But even Downey wandering in with all the Doctor Dooms and taking the mask off got so much coverage. And I mean, again, that's just like, well, things haven't gone well, so we need our Lord and Savior back. We just have him playing the villain this time around. And I get it. I get it. Marvel diluted their. I mean, the idea of the Marvel series on Disney Plus was great, but they've just diluted their brand, unfortunately. I mean, I loved Thunderbolts, to be fair. I thought Thunderbolts was huge fun, but I've not been particularly invested in much of their stuff for a while, unfortunately. And so it's the same thing here, that with the Immortal Universe, you don't want to dilute it too much by making it that you have to watch Talamasca to understand the plot point. You don't want to have to be able to watch Mayfair Witches to be able to understand. They need to all stand alone, but with cute little mentions here and there, which deepens for everybody else. Because I mean, I'm sure that I might catch up with Mayfair Witches at some point, but I definitely want to watch Talamasca because I think it's a fun idea. I love the kind of the watching the vampires idea. I think that's huge fun. I want to see the person having an absolute nervous breakdown. That's the person that's signed to look after the stat. I mean, just reading his text messages. Imagine the person who's instructed to spy on the stat's text messages to Louis. He's just going to be crying every day. It's going to be like, I can't cope with this. It's be an absolute nightmare. And yeah, we don't want any characters introduced there that would carry over, or not in any significant way anyway. But it's going to be, I mean, it's really exciting to see the universe thriving, because obviously one show does well, all of them do well. AMC paid a phenomenal amount of money to the Anne Rice estate for the rights to these books, so it's good. We want them all to succeed. We want them all to do well, so that we can have, well, many series of interviews for that vampire. We need them to do, for a start, we need them to do Queen of the Damned and the Tale of the Body Thief. If only because it's going to be hilarious watching Sam Reed pretend to be somebody else in his body. And Queen of the Damned, we must have that series. Because everyone's going to be phenomenal. Everyone's going to be so good. I can't wait. Because I'm assuming they're not going to. I mean, the Vampire Lestat is a much bigger book than Interview with the Vampire. It's almost double the size, but I suspect you can condense it down to 8 episodes slightly easier than Interview with the Vampire. Because Interview with the Vampire, you had to cover New Orleans in the depth that it needed to do justice to the characters, and then do Paris the same way. I'm not sure that they're going to split Vampire Lestat in quite the same way. Or it might feel rushed. I'm going to feel sad, but I'm assuming it's going to end with the vampires invading the Stat's concerts and Akasha kidnapping the Stat just after Louis has declared his love, and then we're going to be sobbing our entire way through the reaction episode.
It's going to be interesting to see where it goes, and until then, we will be back in the not too distant future with our deep dive into series 2. So we're not, the show might be out of our reach for the moment, but we're not. We're still here. Let's rewatch series 2 and so that we're all primed for when series 3 does drop.
And thank you so much for listening. We've been absolutely blown away by the sheer number of people listening, and the sheer number of people around the world listening. It's phenomenal. We've got so many different countries. It's been absolutely incredible, and we love you all. Thank you so much. Do follow us on socials. We'll link them all in the show notes. And yeah, until next time.